So by now, most likely, many have already made probably similar theories of what I'm about to mention, so if I'm not the first one, well, forgive me. But it came to mind after reading this week's chapter of One Piece. When Momo mentions the word Sunach, which is very distinctively different from MS's translation, by the way. Like, if you go to MS and you read their translation, it says snatch, but if you read the Shonen Jump Viz Media translation, it says Sunach, which is S-U, natch, whatever. So it might be the same, but it's definitely worded differently, so it could still be something completely different from what we actually expect from the MS translation. But regardless, though, that whole scene with Momo and Zoro is definitely critical. It's a very big part. Maybe not for the end game of Kaido bringing him down, but I think in terms of world building and finding out more about Zoro as a person, I think that line that Zoro is saying is probably very relevant to Wano, and I'm going to get into that. So, let's look at what's happened since the time skip. As we know, Zoro was training with Mihawk for a while, and we don't really know the full extent of everything that Zoro learned from Mihawk. We don't really know what happened to his eye. I mean, there's a lot of blanks in Zoro's past. We don't really know about what happened completely in the time skip, and when we think about Zoro's origin story, we don't really even know who his parents are. And if we think about the recent events that's happened in the last arc with Whole Cake Island, we can assume that maybe very soon Oda-sensei might dive into Zoro's backstory to clarify how his past was, who his parents are, where he kind of came from. And I know for a fact for a very long time now, you're probably not going to hear this first from me, but for a long time now, the community in some ways has talked about how Zoro could potentially be from Wano. And in a lot of ways, it does make sense. I mean, it's extreme. In some cases, it can be a little bit of a stretch, but it still is possible. It's not 100% like no. There is, like, a small chance that Zoro could be from Wano, and I will talk about it. As we know, Zoro ended up in, where he was in the early stage of the series at a dojo. And we don't really know where he really came from. For all we know, he could have came by boat, landed on the island, went to the dojo to become very powerful. We know that Zoro was driven to be the number one. He wanted to be the number one, get very powerful, very strong. That was always his objective since the very beginning of the series. And when you think about Zoro as a character and where he, his past was, how strong he was, it made you wonder, did he wind up from somewhere else? Like, somewhere from another continent or whatever. Like, from maybe West Blue, North Blue, whatever. Did he wind up from the Grand Line? Because, I mean, if Sanji can go across borders and stuff to a different blue, then maybe Zoro is very similar in that regard. And when you think about Zoro's, I guess, way to travel, how he can't tell what direction is which, he might have started off in Wano, and he might have took a wrong turn and somehow ended up in, East Blue. Who really knows? Because Zoro's entire mentality of how he's confused about directions could play a part here. And it wouldn't be the first time that Oda would incorporate a character flaw / character trait into a character's backstory. And so, I could see Zoro's ability to not knowing what direction is which, leading him to eventually find that dojo to where he trains, and we see the rest with the Straw Hat crew, but he could have been from Wano, sent out. Now, let's look at his age. Zoro currently, right now, after time skip, he is around 21 years old, which is a perfect time. It's a little bit earlier than the fall of Wano, but it's still around a good amount of time since what Kaido did in Wano. Because as we know, 20 years ago, that's when Wano fell, when the entire system changed, and then Kinemon set in motion, or Odin set in motion, all of them set in motion to do what they're doing now, to bring down Kaido, bring down the Shogun, to get Momo in power, and get Wano back to what it once was. And so, it makes you wonder if, in some way, Zoro was sent off on a mission before things were going real south. Like, maybe there was already, like, a build-up to what was going on within the government before Kaido really arrived and started dismantling what Wano was, or probably, what happened to the Shogun, Odin, or anything. You had it to where maybe there were some signs, and whoever Zoro was a part of, if, like, he was a part of Wano, like his family, they might have seen the early signs and sent him away, because he's a samurai and they don't want someone like him to die. He's very powerful. That could be the case. And if we think about the dialogue that Momo was saying, get back into the original thing I was discussing, with Momo saying, like, something like Sunach and all that, and the reason why he has someone like Kiku not wanting Momo to say a word like that, besides, people's dirty minds, it could be the fact that the line comes from mafia slang. Because we do know that there is mafia in this country. We know that Kyoshiro, he was the head of the mafia, basically, leading the Yakuza, so we know that there is an establishment like that. And we get to even see Hyo in this chapter that is established. We truly get to find out his identity. It was the old man in the prison, and that, he was sad that so much happened to the samurai, how they were driven out of the country and they're all pretty much dead. And when you look at everything, it's implying in some ways that maybe Zoro could be related to the Yakuza. He could be related to Hyo. He could be related to, Kyoshiro in some way. Who really knows? But he might be related to the mafia, a part of the Wano country. And if that is the case, it would explain why Zoro would know certain lines. And another way he could know this line is thanks to Mihawk. As we know, he trained with Mihawk, so he might have picked up that line from Mihawk as well. So there's a lot of questions, but that was a big thing I saw from this chapter that I think many are just going to easily overlook, that is very vital for going forward in this arc for Zoro, because we know Zoro's going to have a big role to play. But okay, let's talk about Big Mom. Now, Big Mom, as we know, she is pretty much reset to zero, and she's kind of back to her childlike self. She is child, she's innocent, she has this meanness about her, but it's an innocent, like, child behavior. I mean, the way she nailed the Crocogate or whatever, like how she hit it in this chapter, she didn't do it out of malice. She did it because how she was as a child. Remember, she wasn't taught right, and she used to do that with animals. And it actually is a step up that she didn't kill the creature, because if this would have been her in the past, she would have probably hit the bear and instantly killed it or whatever. So it's good to see that she didn't do that with this creature in the chapter. So yeah, Big Mom is, in some ways, a little bit different. She is not making as many mistakes as she did when she was a straight-up child, but I feel like, once again, this is a big part to her character development, that she's going to finally get a good upbringing that she deserves. And Chopper even points out that the hat was not talking within this chapter, which, once again, goes along with what I talked in my last chapter review, that the hat, Napoleon, we know that they're all linked to Big Mom. They're a part of her soul. And we know Zeus was operating completely fine. We don't know if he remembers anything, but he was operating. But when you look at Napoleon, he's pretty much like unconscious in like a comatose-like state, not really knowing what's going on. So it could be because of the direct vicinity of whatever happened to Big Mom is what happened to Napoleon and why he's acting like that. Who knows? But the point stands here is that Big Mom right now, she is technically on our side. And I do wonder if she will have a hunger pain attack. That is a critical part, because we know this is a problem, an illness that Big Mom has. And it's going to eventually pop up. The longer she stays away from food that she wants, she's going to have a hunger pain, which maybe Chopper can step in and do something, but that is on a whole other, video discussion I can do later on. But for now, Big Mom is traveling with them to Udon, which is where Luffy is currently stationed. And so it's kind of interesting that Big Mom is going to save Luffy. She's going to where Luffy's at in prison, and we know how strong she is. She would probably demolish that prison like that, and Luffy would be able to get out. So I'm pretty excited about this. I am excited to see where this is going to go and what role Big Mom really is going to have to play in this arc, because I've already talked about how it kind of makes both sides unbalanced, but I do wonder if she will fight Kaido, or if something else unexpected is going to happen, and if Big Mom could potentially die in this arc. Because, I mean, there was some odd, dialogue at the beginning of the chapter with Pero, and how he was talking about if Big Mom was to die, then it would be the Pero Pirates now, or Katakuri Pirates. That's what he was basically saying, and it makes you wonder, is Oda implying that Big Mom could die? I mean, if there's anyone that could kill Big Mom, I would say would be someone that would be a Yonko, which would be Kaido. And we do know that Kaido said he would kill Big Mom if she was to walk into his territory, so who knows? Especially with her in a state like she is right now, not really comprehending what's going on. She is probably a lot weaker than she normally is because of her innocence, and Kaido could just walk in and do wham, she's done. That's kind of scary to think about. Anyways, let's talk about Luffy and his role in prison right now. So Luffy obviously still causing problems, and apparently Kid escaped. He's no longer in the prison. It was said through newspaper report that Law was reading that Kid is no longer in prison. He has escaped. If that is the case, I'm kind of curious. How did that happen? I mean, Kid apparently still has Sea Prism Stone cuffs on. If I had to assume anything, maybe Kid didn't really escape. He might still be in the prison, just biding his time, recovering strength or whatever. Who really knows? But I feel like, you know, he might not have been able to get out. And he just might be hiding somewhere, kind of very similar to Impel Down, and how there was a floor between, like, the final level and the level before that, like an in-between floor. I'm willing to bet something like that's going on. Maybe there is a section, a part of the prison, that has people that are able to escape or just stay hidden for a little bit to kind of recuperate their strength. Now, anyways, talking about Luffy. So, Luffy, can anyone acknowledge the fact that Luffy has gotten incredibly strong? Like, okay, I know he beat Katakuri and all that, yes. I'm talking about when you look at his muscles, he's gained a lot of mass. Like, he is becoming an absolute unit, which in a lot of ways makes sense when you think about his situation. Remember, Luffy, he has Sea Prism cuffs on, which means he cannot use his rubber-like Devil Fruit powers to be able to do things. That means he isn't as durable as he was, or how he normally is. And so, him lifting up boulders, he's not relying on his muscle-like powers, he's actually having to use raw muscle, his raw strength to be able to do things, which I think would be very different from what Luffy is normally used to, because his muscles are made out of rubber, but now that they're not, he's actually bulking up, finally. I wonder if that is something Oda is doing, or if I'm just putting too much thought into it, but that was something I thought about while reading this chapter. Anyways, Robin gets all the information she needs, but she's still disappointed, which, oh my god, Robin, just accept the W. Just accept the W, please. Like, you got all the information you needed, but you want more. Like, come on now. Like, come on. Just be happy with what you got. But anyways, success on Robin's part, and we do get some, you know, information on another poneglyph, which isn't the road poneglyph, but is another poneglyph, and I'm willing to bet we're going to probably get some information about it, because it was stated to be in a very weird room, so it's probably going to be something very relevant maybe to Wano's history. But for now, I think I want to end this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.